Where did the indigenous groups of the Caribbean come from? Before European contact, Caribbean islands were home to a diverse group of indigenous cultures. These groups had their own languages and cultural practices and were largely spread throughout the archipelago. When the Spanish arrived in Hispaniola, they noticed when using natives as translators that certain groups had vastly different languages. The most distinct of these groups were the earliest known settlers of the Caribbean, hunter-gatherer groups who predated the arrival of later ceramic-using groups. These groups included the Guanahatabe, occupying western Cuba, and were speculated to have come from the Yucatan Peninsula 6,000 years ago. The Siboney, who inhabited parts of Cuba and Hispaniola, they were expected to have migrated from Florida 6,000 years ago. Macaris, who inhabited central Hispaniola and are alleged to be a part of the same migration pattern as the Guanahatabe, and the Siguayo, who inhabited the eastern part of Hispaniola and were said to have migrated from modern-day Belize. 3,800 years later, groups from the Ocarino River region in modern-day Venezuela, the Siloid people, started to migrate into the Lesser Antilles. They marked the beginning of the Ceramic Age in the Caribbean. The Siloid culture emerged into the Taino and the Igneri, Arawakan-speaking people groups. The Taino were organized into four main branches: Western Taino, inhabiting the western regions of the Caribbean; Lucayan Taino, occupying the Bahamas; Classic Taino, found in central areas like Hispaniola and Puerto Rico; Eastern Taino, residing in the eastern parts of the Caribbean. The Taino established complex societies with hierarchical structures, engaged in agriculture, and developed rich cultural traditions. Approximately 40 years before the arrival of the Spanish, a new group known as the Kalingo, also referred to as the Carib, began expanding into Igneri territories. The Kalingo were a maritime people, expert navigators and warriors. Their expansion led to the displacement or assimilation of the Igneri people in many areas. The arrival of the Europeans in 1492 had a devastating effect on the indigenous populations of the Caribbean. All groups suffered immensely due to disease, enslavement and forced labour, starvation and displacement. By 1520, the Taino population had been reduced to a few thousand, while some sources claim their extinction by 1802. Recent studies and DNA analysis have revealed that the Taino descendants survive today, particularly in Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Cuba. Despite centuries of colonization and cultural suppression, the legacy of the Caribbean's indigenous people endures. The Kalingo of Dominica, for instance, maintain a distinct cultural identity and have designated territory on the island. Modern descendants of the Taino and other indigenous groups continue to celebrate and preserve their heritage, ensuring that the rich history of the Caribbean's first inhabitants is not forgotten.